the problem is that the government is too arrogant. I think the Nigerian government officials and the government itself are extremely arrogant. And I start to wonder if I was that way or we were that way. Honestly, I tried to go back and check. Is it possible? But I personally, I can tell you that I tried not to be that way. Also, I'm curious how you kidnap or what do they call, seize 300 kids from a school, 100 kids, and you walk them or you bus them or to where? In this country, we don't know where they are. It's mind-boggling to me. And then we carefully rescue them, because I say carefully because nobody is injured. So
nobody's arrested.
Nobody is arrested. Nobody was pursued. We saw nobody running.
Our guest is Professor Magnus Kpakol, former Chief Economic Advisor to President Olusegun Obasanjo and National Coordinator of the National Poverty Eradication Program. He's a professor of political economy and all of that. All right, let's start this show by asking the most topical issue facing Nigerians today, which is the issue of tax. What is the hidden economics in the new tax reform law that Nigerians are crying about?
That's wonderful. I don't know if there's any hidden stuff in the tax. It's supposed to. That's why they call it public policy. That means what the government is doing is in the public. So there should not be anything that is hidden in what the government is doing. I personally think that it's going to be an ongoing conversation with the people of the country. I think, citizens often think that the government is imposing taxes on them as a punitive thing that they do to them. But in reality, that's typically the way that the government, has resources to provide the infrastructure and do the things that is security and all the other things that it's supposed to do. Suppose we didn't have crude oil and all of that, the only thing we'll have to fall back on would be the taxes that we collect from the people. But that being said, I think also I have to say that I think that the direction is not really bad. What the problem is that people's incomes are not rising. So because incomes are not rising and prices have been rising, any discussion of tax, especially as far as anybody is concerned, will be considered to be problematic. So because if you look at it on the surface of it, the corporate income taxes are going down. It's just that we are broadening the scope, for the taxation. But I think the vexing issue is the fact that incomes are not rising. We are not productive enough. And I think that the government should pay a little bit more attention to how we can be more productive. And then whatever taxes they have will kind of be okay.
There is this argument, especially from the opposition, that there is a disparity. Can you clearly state specifically areas that you think the oppositions are a little bit uncomfortable about on the one they proposed and the one that is being gazetted as a controversy now?
But that cannot be. I mean, I heard it in the news also, and it's not been proven one way or the other. So far as I remember, as far as I can recall, but there should not be, otherwise it would be illegal. I mean, because, once you pass it, there's a law. So nobody can go and tweak it. I mean, that would be a very serious problem.
So if by any implication there is any alteration has been alleged by some persons, it means that it becomes illegal. That is implementing the tax law.
It's a very serious problem, yes. Very, very serious. I'm not a lawyer, but I suppose that it's almost even constitutional.
Some persons say Nigeria is a poor country. Do you accept that assertion?
Well, it is not a rich country in terms of its income. If you talk about its potential, which we always talk about the potential of Nigeria, then it's potentially rich. But is it materially rich? I don't think so. Are we a poor country? Well, we are classified by the World Bank in the low middle income category. So that's not high. That's not a rich country. So our per capita GDP is not more than $14,000. So as far as I can see, as far as I know, as far as I also determine, any income that is for a nation that is below 14,000 is not rich. So we are not a rich country.
Okay.
In terms of our income.
Okay.
We are a blessed country. We are a wealthy country in terms of our resources. You can be wealthy in terms of your assets, but if you're not getting money, revenue come out of that, to show up your income, then you're not materially rich. You're wealthy with your assets, but you're not rich in terms of your revenue and cash flow.
How is it possible for us to maximize our potentials, to leverage on our potential to be considered as a rich country?
Well, that's what is. I saw it that I brought the book here, the book that I just published that you ran for me at that occasion. I thank you so very much for the expert and very professional job that you did. I believe that honestly, and I'm not kidding, that the motivation was for that. If we can do what I have suggested in this book, we begin to have GDP growth rates near 20%. And the income difficulty that I talked about will be eliminated. Because basically what's happening is that, especially for a big country like ours, the reason Nigeria is suffering is because we have a big country with a huge population, and the people are disconnected with the ability to be productive. They're cut away from, they're handcuffed from their natural resources, from the tools, the most elementary tools, the real fundamental tools that they can use to be financially successful. They are handcuffed from those tools. So you can't be productive if you're not using capital. The number one reason why African countries are poor is because of their lack of access to capital, whether it be for principally is human capital. Of course, you say why is that so? Because they are not improving. They are not getting more human capital accumulation. Then we have lack of access to natural capital, that is the resources we have under the ground. Then we don't have the physical capital, the machines and the things, the electricity and all those kind of things to work with. And of course, people have lack of access to financial capital. So you must have capital. You cannot be successful as a country, as an individual, if you don't have access to capital. And that's what the people are denied. The day that we have what I call full local ownership, flow, in the country where the local communities have access to their capital and they are taxed, and that's why I don't have problems with taxing. If you tax people but they have money, they can pay. So even if my book I'm recommending for that kind of situation, not income tax, 80% tax rate. And the communities will still have 20%, they will completely transform their communities. The people will be so rich, they will be surprised. The productiveness will be so high. Notice I'm not saying productivity. That's productiveness, meaning it's the same as human capital development. Their ability to produce goods and services will be immense. And we ought to try it.
We'll get to the living secret. We'll still get to it.
Okay.
Let's look at how do you assess this government in the area of the economy?
Well, I don't usually assess government because I served in a government. So I'm usually more encouraging of government. So it doesn't matter who is in office. I try to be as supportive and as encouraging as I can. And I tell people, and I gotta say this openly, as a Nigerian American, so I usually support the U.S. government. I support the Nigerian government. So my conversation always is from the perspective of how can we make these governments more successful. So when I look at that, I begin to look more at positives. And then because we can hold on to those as handles and use that to improve the economy. And I think that the one strong positive that I see, is the stabilization of the economy. We had a situation where people were not sure what the value of the naira would be tomorrow. And that's a very important window that people look through to see into the country. But now it's very clear to everybody that the exchange rate has been fairly stable and appears to to be on the path to being very stable for a very long time to come. That's that's very crucial, very fundamental. We also see a decline in the inflation rate. The problem there is that inflation may be declining, but doesn't mean that prices are not rising. Prices are rising, but rising slower. But the problem is that it's stuck on a higher level because the roaring prices of the past brought the cost of living to a high level. So at that high plateau, and now it's not rising as fast as before. But my income did not rise that fast, for me to be able to catch up. So it doesn't matter how much deceleration is taking place with inflation, people are still crying, and legitimately so. I don't know what the government can do immediately to try to reverse that, except to be more prudent and try to improve on governance. So this is where, if we talk about being critical, as a suggestion, is that we have to tackle corruption a little bit more seriously. Because I think that's very evident. Everybody's talking about it. It seems to not be under control. So if you got to stop the hemorrhaging, the leakages that are taking place, and use the little that we have in a more supportive way to support productive activities. And I think that we really have to do that.
Now you've talked about corruption, I will still return to the inflation and our reality.
Yeah.
It's trending down, but our reality is not reflecting that. I'll return to that. But since you've talked about corruption, for over 25 years, we've fought corruption with committees, with panels, with slogans. But yet, some persons are saying, even under this government, we seem not to be fighting corruption the way you should. And they are asking, is our problem real problem of bad laws or leaders who refuse to obey existing laws?
Well, there's, okay, you're talking about hidden economics. Okay, so there's a small hidden economics in this. And I think that it comes from the fact that because the cost of living is extremely high, the Naira is weaker, although it is stabilized, vis-a-vis the dollar and all that. We import a lot. So people are forced into a desperate economy. And, and so in this so-called desperation economy, people don't know what to do. And if I can take this chair and get away with it, I will try to take it until you stop me from taking the chair. But where a lot of people are taking the chair, and even the guy that's supposed to watch the taking of the chair is also taking the chair, then it becomes a real problem because everybody's in this predicament. So what usually happens then, what I think should happen there should be a lot of conversation on the subject of corruption. Well, we need to do more advocacy against it. We need to have more whistleblowing, just like you saw with the Dangote case. More whistleblowing needs to take place, and people need to be assured that if you come and blow your whistle, you're going to be protected or even rewarded. It is something we got to do something about, because with the PLO situation we have, I call it PLO, partial local ownership situation that we have, not the Palestinian Liberation Organization, you got to be able to use the resources properly. You get resources from the people, but the benefits don't come adequately back to the people. It's a partial local ownership. So if you improve on governance, then we'll be able to get the benefits more abundantly to the people.
Back to the inflation. Inflation, the last 6 months or thereabout, has been trending downwards. But our reality does not reflect that. And people are like, is this an audio deceleration or is it something else?
Well, that's what I meant, that the reality shows it. It shows that there is, I can see that the inflation is actually trending down. That is that it is not rising. Prices are not rising like before. That's very obvious. Even anybody can see it. But what the problem is that it is rising slowly from a very high level in terms of cost of living level. That the cost of living is pretty high. We got there. We got to that high level from the many years and months of roaring inflation. But the income did not catch up with that. So people are left stranded. They are left stranded down in the pit, while the thing that they need to get is high up there on the hills. So you're in the valley, but the goodies are up there on the hills, and that's what people are crying about. So you say, no, but don't worry, the hill is not rising much faster, but it's still pretty high. I can't get to it. So that's the hidden economics, is that the people are just frustrated with that. And it's very difficult for any administration to deal with it. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, since I can't think of somebody who come today and wave something and just make that go away.
Of course, we are told reforms take time, yet people are skipping meals. For how long will they continue to skip meals and wait for these reforms to mature, when they also see government officials living in affluence?
Yes. Yeah, you're right. I think a big problem in our country has been, and most governments are also like that, but the problem is that the government is too arrogant. I think the Nigerian government officials and the government itself are extremely arrogant. And I start to wonder if I was that way or we were that way. Honestly, I tried to go back and check. Is it possible? But I personally, I can tell you that I tried not to be that way. And I challenged people who encountered me when I was in government if they thought I was arrogant. I tried not to. I can't say I wasn't, but I tried. I was conscious of it and tried not to be that way. But I see it. And what I mean by arrogant is that we tell the people we can do so much. So we make the people believe that we can do so. So the people wait for you to give it to me. So, and I mentioned during my book launch, so the populace says, give me, come and give. Why? Because you said, when you were campaigning, when you were talking, you said, I will do it. Oh, we will do that. We will clear this. Oh, and then you act in that manner, the way you dress, the way the kind of car that you drive. When I see you, when I was in government, when I was chief economic advisor to the president, my official car was a Peugeot 406. That's not a sign of arrogance. My pilot car was some vehicle we found, we put some light on top of it, and even that I stopped it, because I thought it was comical for me to be blowing that whistle all over town when there's no trouble. In fact, I used to tell my guys, hey, be careful, because then the people we're afraid of will not know we are coming. And that's when they will shoot us down. So don't blow any whistle saying that we are coming. So all that, personal arrogance of the government, I think we need to curtail that. We need to, and if you do that, then you challenge the people. You tell the people, hey, we're in this together. I'm a leader with you. I'm a facilitator. That's what the government is. It's a facilitator. The government is not there to do it for us, but it's to help us to be able to do it. We have to go from community to community. I'm going to be a keynote speaker at an event in River State, and it's on entrepreneurship. And there's this guy, and I'm not abashed to mention his name, Chief Mao. He's been extremely wonderful in the area, putting in his philanthropy a lot of resources into entrepreneurship for the people, encouraging people to do stuff. I think that local government, state government, senators, members of the House, federal government should be focused on entrepreneurship. How can we produce stuff? How can we grow many Dangotes? So it is, but sometimes, for political reasons, sometimes it looks as if some government officials are afraid to produce other rich people for fear that they might be upstaged somehow. But that's really where we need to go. We need to get our people, lots of them, to be very productive, to be stars, like Tony Elumelu, like Denuka, like Dangote, like all these other very successful people that we have in the country. We need a lot more of them. One of the reasons the United States is as good as it is, if you look at the top 10 billionaires in the world, they're mostly Americans. Then there are many others coming. There's a private sector people that are extremely successful, and they're encouraged and supported along by their governments. We have to try to do that to regular people. There are a lot of these very smart guys in Lagos, young guys in tech, because I think that's one area where we can leapfrog some of the other countries that are ahead of us. Support these tech boys and girls in Lagos, in Port Harcourt, in Kaduna, all over the country. Let them be competitive with the Koreans, with the Chinese and the Americans and the Europeans. That's the way to do it. If you don't produce the goods and services that the people of the world want, then you're going to be poor. So today, the only real good that we're producing like that is crude oil, and it's crude. But you see some of our guys in the area of music and entertainment doing extremely well. But that's, as a share of GDP, is not quite that large. But that shows what private enterprise can do. And we need to support people like that in services and in actual physical productive activity.
Nigerians vote, but it is argued that the elites seem to decide the outcomes. Are we truly practicing democracy? What is your opinion?
But you said the vote, so that means we're practicing it. That's what it is. If you can vote, you're practicing it.
But the elites decide.
What do you mean by they decide?
Many a times, people contest the outcome of the results.
Yeah.
They say this is not who we voted for.
Yeah.
Like in 2023.
Yeah.
That INEC said glitches. And they didn't explain the glitches up to date. So they feel that, just like I think Aristotle or Socrates, one of them said that those who vote don't matter, but those who count the votes matter.
Well, yes, I can't say that I'm unaware of the situation. But that's where the judiciary is supposed to come in. And notice I said supposed to. But the view, the outside view of the judiciary has not been extremely fantastic. Right? They've not had a fantastic view in terms of the way people see them. So I think we need to do more work there, because if you had that in place, then these people will be corrected. That's why the rule of law is extremely important. So if we, and I don't know how you get that, I'm a lawyer, so I don't really know how you get that to happen. But I accept from an economics point of view. I'm sorry to refer to the book again. I think that you can solve the first, I'm an economist, so that's my perspective, the bearing that I have almost all the time. And then, of course, by the grace of God, I'm actually a political economist with a degree in it. Okay, so I look at it from the point of view of economics and policy and the people. And I think what has to happen, if you empower the people, if the people have full local ownership, it sounds like a crack record, but it's extremely important, and they have enough of their resources, then you cannot easily influence them with 500 naira, with 1,000 naira, with 20,000 naira. They will tell you, go to hell with your 500 naira, because look at me, do I look like you can give me 5,000 naira to do whatever? And they will vote because they want to keep the situation that they have healthy and sustainable. So they will not fall for that. So the reason why some of these things happen is because the people are so incapacitated. The people are not able to stand up by themselves. So we've got to be able to get the people to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, because they own their own natural resources and they're connected to that and they have a lot of money. So any politician coming, we have to recognize their dignity, and we have to respect them, and they will vote properly. We won't need to go to the court or the Supreme Court. I think that from an economics point of view, that is the solution.
Talking about the rule of law and the judiciary,
Yeah.
What is the place of the rule of law and economic development in any country?
Well, that's it. Well, it occupies a very important place, because just like if you play soccer, any kind of game, if you don't have a referee, that could be a problem. You have a boxing match and there is no referee. You got to be able to tell when somebody's hitting below the belt and hitting over the back of the head and all those kind of things. So the rule of law is extremely important, of course, in anything. But that's why, again, sorry to keep mentioning it for the book, I emphasize the role of the National Assembly of the rule of law to correct the laws, so that people have access to their resources. When they have access to their resources, they'll be able to go there, you tax them. they pay their taxes. They're doing well. They know they need to be protected, they need to have good security. They know they need infrastructure. So they will pay their taxes, and therefore they will be able to vote. They'll make their own choice in the polling booth. But as it is today, they can be easily influenced because they're hungry, and besides, they may not even have the ability to go and check or challenge it. How many regular people in society can challenge a thing all the way to the Supreme Court? And the other thing that happens is you will be hard-pressed to find a school teacher, like we see in Texas, who comes out and runs for any position. A friend of mine, the daughter was just a young lawyer, and she ran to become a state representative, and she won. She almost won at the national level. She doesn't have any money. So, but what she says appeals to the people. See, so that's what we need to work towards. You need to have, and the reason that happens is that these people are not easily compromised. I cannot succeed with a bribe to you if you are not accepting it. And also, if I see that you're going to challenge me and challenge any system and be very vocal about it, then I will be careful how I do it. But for the most part, after a while, the people are tired, even when they try to challenge it, because they're too poor. The poverty is a serious problem, and you said it. I consider that I have been anointed to fight for the poor. And that's one of the reasons I wrote this book, is I feel that, and I'm very passionate about it, not just in Nigeria, all over the world, to speak as I'm speaking, to advocate, to say that, come on guys, let us allow people to have access to capital. President Tinubu is doing something very close to it. This thing where he's urging the governors to allow autonomy at the local government level. It's a partial local ownership, but it's very close to the position that I hold. Well, let's bring it closer to the people. That's how you can stimulate economic development. I'm very confident that he's saying that from the point of view of economics, not so much for politics. Because that's the way to do it. If we drill it down from the top, it ain't going to work. We've got to bring it from the bottom. The country is an aggregation of the communities and local governments of the nation. You don't just sit in Abuja and say, this is a country, and press it down. It will not work. There is no way that President Tinubu, as good as he may be, will be able to get it to work in all the corners of the country by sitting down in Asa Villa here. He cannot do it, and no one can do it.
Let's talk about the Ogoni land and the plan to resume oil exploration. What is the federal government up to in your home state? That brings us to the living secrets and your flow model.
Okay, well, I've been on the outside watching, and I follow very closely watching. I'm from Ogoni myself, and I follow. I gotta tell you, my first little note that I wrote, recommended to the president when I was economic advisor, was to gradually give resources back to the people. But at that time, people were shouting resource control. Mine is not that type of resource control. Mine is the kind of conversation and legalization of the process. So we kind of legalize a new kind of model. So what I see in Ogoni is that there are many voices. And the reason there are many voices is because there is not a consensus view. There may be other reasons also, personality issues and all of that. But I think that if you have a consensus opinion, what consensus opinion is that, guys, you own your own stuff. But what I see, the argument I see, that some people say, oh, let's take 10%, let them give us a little bit of this, let them give, sometimes, like what I'm suggesting amounts to almost the same as let them take 10 or 20%. But when there are certain words that you use, you own this stuff. That goes a long way, to pacifying the people. If I come to you and say, you own this place, just by telling you you own it, even if they tax you 99%, but who owns this place? So Victor Iroele owns the place, So these people, the community people, will have a sense of dignity and pride. And I think that and with this method also, the government will get way more than they've ever got before. So that's the thing. So I don't personally think that there will be profound agreement amongst Ogoni people on some of the ideas that I've seen them trying to solve, because there are so many groups that are fighting. And so even if a few people come to Abuja and meet with the president and the NSA and all that, and oh, we have agreed, I can almost assure you that it's not going to work. They will fight it, they will disrupt it, they will use every instrument, natural, physical, supernatural, every method they have, they will use to fight it, if I know the people. But if you say that they own it, they will not fight their own stuff. Then they will be able to sit at the table with you. I think that we should give people that dignity and that honor. And if it works, and I believe that it will work, we replicate it all over the country. It's not for just Ogoni people. It's for all of Nigeria. We have the same situation in Zamfara. These guys, they say they are poor, but they've got gold underneath them. They're sitting on a living secret. That's why I call the book The Living Secret. The ground that we are sitting on right now is a living thing. It contains all the things. It supports life. How can it support life if it's not alive? Something is not alive, it's supporting. So it supports life. It brings all kinds of things. If you plant a little kernel of corn, it sprouts out. If you plant a little tree, it becomes a forest. It brings out gold, silver, all kinds of mines, creative things. Things to help you with your innovation. So it's just wonderful. So the earth we sit on is a living thing. It's alive. And we need to connect the persons, our people, with this earth. If we do that, you will see the potential rise. In some countries, now, this practice is not all over the world. There are many countries that do the same thing we're doing. They're state-owned. But they are a little bit more efficient with their resources. The governance level is pretty high. The human capital level is very high. What you find is that in countries where the human capital level is low, the governance situation tends to be weak. In countries where the human capital is very high, like in Singapore, in Switzerland, United States, those kind of countries, the human capital level is very high. The index is very high. Then also you find that the corruption level is lower. The governance level is lower. I'm sorry, corruption level is lower. The governance level is high. The corruption is low, is what I meant to say. So because our human capital number, I think it's like 36% or so. They say that if you have a kid, the way they, I don't define my own human capital like that, but but that's how the World Bank and them define it. That means that a child that is born today, by the age 18 or so, would realize only 36% of his potential. But what I say is that my definition of human capital is that it is the stock of knowledge and of wellness and of the behavioral, emotional, attitudinal skills of a people. So if we harness the skills, and that, in fact, you don't even have to go to school to develop your human capital, because you can develop what I call task-specific human capital. That is, I teach you how to make shoes. You never went to school, but you can make shoes and make a lot of money. If I teach you how to box, you don't have to have a PhD to do that. Because some people say, oh, they didn't go to school, therefore they're consigned to poverty. No, they are not. We just have to get them to be productive, because it's good for them to go to school, to be able to manage other things and deal with the world. But the point I'm emphasizing is that human capital is extremely important. And we need to teach it not by just creating schools. We need to promote it by promoting skills, the development of skills that people use to produce the goods and services that the people of the world want. If you produce goods and your mom doesn't even want it, then obviously the guy in New York or Seoul, Korea will not want it. So how do we produce these goods? We need to license people. We need to make them be competitive. If you ask for an electrician today in your house, for the most part, they arrive with just one screw in their hand. Like the electrician says yes. and then he fixes the thing. And oftentimes, you get into your house, the number one switch should be the light switch. The second one maybe is for the AC or something, but usually they will reverse it because he's not really thinking through the thing. He has never really got good training. He just worked as an apprentice with one guy, and he comes out, he's not certified anywhere. So we need to have agencies that are certifying people properly. And so if you need a tiler, the person is the best tiler in the world. So you can go anywhere and be a tiler. We need to promote this kind of, that's the human capital development thing I'm talking about. Not just getting PhDs. If you want to get a PhD, that's fine. But I'm just saying, if you want to make money, most PhDs don't make a lot of money. So, yeah.
Let's look at between the 70s and 80s. Nigeria was at the same level of development with the likes of Malaysia, Singapore, Brazil, India,
Yeah.
just name it.
Yeah.
How did we lose it? To the point now that it will be an aberration to compare Nigeria with any of these countries, given their level of development, even their per capita income, and where we are.
Yeah.
What was the missing link, and how did we lose it?
The problem is human capital development. And if you take Korea, for example, South Korea, that is, about 1970, we were probably even a little bit larger. We had a larger, higher GDP per capita number compared to South Korea. But today, they are almost 30 times higher than us in per capita income terms. So we're about 1,200. Korea is over 34,000. I mean, so it's ridiculous. The reason, and you see their products all over the place, Samsung, Hyundai, Kia, all kinds of things. You know, they sell the products that you and I want. You know, so where we have lost it is we did not promote productiveness. In other words, get the people to be, that's what human capital development is. You get people to be productive, know how to make chairs, know how to make microphones, to help people to do good tech, build tech apps. They help people to provide, to build generators, you know, that can power small areas. Like, look, in fact, this is the one that amazes me. For a long time, and I have personally sat down with a couple ministers of power in this country, and I said to them, I said, Honorable Minister, I'm not an energy expert, but it seems to me that something is very easy for even a lay person to see. We have a lot of gas. We're flaring some of it. Can we not capture the gas we're flaring? If we don't know how to do it, we call somebody who knows how to do it, and we capture the gas, and we containerize it, because there is some little processing, we containerize it, and we ship it across the country, okay? You would create jobs in the capturing, in the containerizing, in the transporting. You have these virtual pipelines. And then you have communities, the same way we have like GSM today with mass, you have communities have their own generation units. There will be light, I believe, if you do it, within 5 years, you electrify the whole of Nigeria. It is an amazing thing to me that nobody's looking at that. That can happen instantly. You cannot run Nigerian industries on generators. It's too expensive. The Chinese and the South Koreans and I'm not talking Americans and Europeans, they laugh at you. Because they see, it's like you go play soccer against some of the best teams in the world and then you go barefooted, like people used to do in the old days. You know, once they see you barefooted, they start laughing. They know that you are not prepared to be competitive. So I strongly believe that the way to handle power in Nigeria is not through solar or whatever. It's too expensive. The batteries are too costly. You're not going to be able to, for the little guys in the villages, to afford that. It's just too expensive. But we got gas. And that's why, with all this climate change and all these things people talk about, we are not ready for that type of climate change conversion that people are talking about. We're supposed to convert. We have not been able to use the gas we have. Then we start to do solar panels. They're very expensive. We import them in. and have it all over the country. I'm not against solar energy, but people who can afford it, there's a class of people that can afford it, and they can afford the batteries. But I believe that we can use condensed natural gas, as this President Tinubu, has pointed to, and I think he should be more vigorous in trying to get CNG not only in vehicles, as I see that they're doing, but in every neighborhood. You go to the shopping plazas here in Abuja, and there's economic violence committed against you, committed against your hearing. The generators blaring. There are about 100 generators. Each person has his generator. We can do better than that. We can have a silo there that powers the whole of that area with condensed natural gas. We have it in abundance. And we electrify every apartment, every neighborhood. Just in Asokoro, you can have maybe 4 or 5, and in Maitama, you have the same thing all over the country. Look at the jobs that you will create. And they'll be owned not by the government, but by private individuals. It can be done. I don't know. I have tried to say this. I used to say it on my show, Magnus Kpakol GVA. I said it a few times, but nobody has ever called me to say, hey, what was that thing you're talking about? I'm not a politician whatsoever. I've never run for anything. I'm not interested in running for anything. I support individuals based on what they preach and what I think that they can do, not based on the party. So what I'm just saying this is not because I support Tinubu or anything like that, but I think that he's doing the right thing when it comes to even his position of power. I think that he's talking in that direction. He's even talking CNGs from the get-go. And when he's even the road, I mean, some people have criticized him on that road to that, what they call it, the east-west?
Calabar, Coastal Highway.
I think he needs to find a way to fund it, probably with the private sector, as a toll road, so he doesn't bear all the burden. I'm going to say, hey, the federal government doesn't, because I don't think they can afford it easily, but you can make it a toll road and pay it off after some time, and then it becomes ours. So, but I think it's a fantastic idea. I see people trying to criticize. There's no reason to criticize it. I see his fight for local government autonomy. I think that's the closest thing to flow. So I think he has the right ideas. But whether people, because the autonomy he's been shouting in the Supreme Court is validated it, but the people are not doing it.
So where does it leave us? If the Supreme Court has validated that they should give financial autonomy to local governments, and the states are resisting it, and he swore to the Constitution to defend the Constitution.
Well, the president has to take more action, which I heard him say during his budget speech, that he would have to issue an executive order or something like that. But it's constitutional already. It's been passed in the Supreme Court, so he needs to just enforce it. But I think he's down the right path.
The issue of insecurity is suffocating the people right now, and most times we hear government officials talk about negotiating with bandits or terrorists. How can we make any meaningful progress with insecurity in terms of economic development?
I get surprised when I say maybe he's wrong out of the country, and I saw people that look like bandits to me with their rocket launchers having a conversation. I said, well, there they are, arrest them, and they finish with the meeting. Yes, I was astonished. I'm hoping it's not really true.
It is.
Yeah, and so, because I said, well, there they are, arrest them right now, but nobody did. They finished and
walked back into the forest.
And also, I'm curious how you kidnap or you what do they call, seize 300 kids from a school, 100 kids, and you walk them or you bus them or to where? In this country, we don't know where they are. It's mind-boggling to me. And then we carefully rescue them, because I say carefully because nobody is injured. So
nobody's arrested.
Nobody is arrested. Nobody was pursued. We saw nobody running, and so we need to work. It's an area we need to be a little bit more serious in that regard, because you can't have, because the people are not sure. You see, if I was sure that okay, person gets kidnapped or whatever, this is how they are going to rescue them. Something is going to happen. And I think it will work better. I think we can do it, and that's why I'm happy to hear about the collaboration with the United States, because they have the capital, the physical capital help us, especially with intelligence and other things like that. So, I mean, I've always, I gotta say it, I've favored a stronger relationship with the United States as a matter of pursuing our political economy. The reason being that we have our brothers there. We have a large contingent of Nigerians that are fairly successful there. Then we have African Americans, the foundational brothers that were taken from here centuries ago into the United States, and we're not engaging them enough. So we have a natural relationship with the United States, and I think that it's not just in Nigeria that Africans are not exploring, let alone exploiting. So I think that we need to do more there, because why? Because they have capital. And we need to find a way to share ideas and share some of that capital. And I think that they're in reality waiting for us. You have a very large brigade of African Americans, foundational African Americans, that are waiting to work with us. And they bring us into the wider community. And they were able to share resources. But instead, I see as we drift towards some other countries that I don't think quite have that potential. And this is from a very analytical perspective. So I'm talking practically, just practical things that should be done. We need to strengthen our relationship with African Americans. These people, I have the greatest respect for African Americans more than any group of black people in the world. And I say it publicly, because of what they have been through and been able to be as successful as they are. It is incredible. It is immense what they have done. And I think we need to work together to help to change the world, to make Africa a little bit more productive. We need to have that alliance in a productive way, working even with the larger American community. And I think there's a lot. This will have to be deliberate, and there has to be a lot of intentionality in this, from a policy perspective, and also from community-based perspective to try to do this. You don't see much of that happen. Things don't just happen because you wish them. You got to take action, and I don't think that we are doing that.
And of course, let's also look at the power dynamics that is changing in Rivers State now, with the governor moving to the APC. How do you see the whole coloration of political development in Rivers State?
Okay, well, in the old days, I used to say that I'm not into politics, but I don't say that anymore in the sense of discussing politics, because it's affecting the people. So I'm an active observer of what's happening in the state, and from time to time, I try to make my suggestions to our leaders. There are leaders in the state, and I respect them. And I'm hoping that they are working towards the good of the people. I think that Rivers State is far behind Lagos right now. There was a time I thought that, Rivers, Port Harcourt, for example, let's say, was somewhere in competition with Lagos. But I'm not going to go to Eagle Square and shout that now. I think that Lagos is way ahead. Lagos is just doing extraordinary things. And I'm very proud of the leadership in Lagos. It's very good. And the president did a fantastic job when he was governor of Lagos. I think he laid a good foundation that the people have built on. So they're doing good. In my state, I think we could do better. We have all the resources to do better. We're just there like Lagos by the ocean. We can have fish trawling all over the place. We are now doing it. We've got 2 refineries. We've got 2 seaports. It's just incredible resources all over the place. But the focus has been too much on who is going to be what politically. And I think that that's what it is. And if I had the opportunity of sitting with people I would say to them that what is important is the human beings, is the citizens of the state, for them to be in a position where they can be more, a little bit more proud of themselves as being productive. What makes you proud is not the things you can destroy, it's not who you can defeat, it's not who you can beat down, but who you can lift up. So if a leader should be looking at how they've lifted up the people, how the people are doing much better now than before. So it doesn't really matter to me what party a governor person goes to, if they think that that's where they're going to get their political advantage, to do something good for the people. If it is to do something good just for themselves, then I'm not so sure that that's a very good thing for the people, because you are a leader for the people. So I'm believing that the governor is a sharp guy, that he is looking for where he thinks he can be more useful to the people of Rivers State. And I talked to a couple of the members of the State Assembly. They're very sharp guys in our State Assembly. And I'm hoping that, and I've often asked them, the ones I talk to work with the governor as best as they can. And now they're in the same party for the most part. So I'm hoping that all of that leads to working for the people of Rivers State and the people of the country. You see, you want your state to be a star. Look at Lagos. So people can come from other parts of the country to your state and do business with you. That's what you want. You want people, look at New York. Look at people from everywhere, Toronto, all these different places, London. What makes those countries, those states, those cities fantastic is their attraction. They attract the best in the world. So you want a river state that is attracting the best that the world has to offer, starting with Nigeria. We want the best from Katsina, from Lagos, from Owerri, from everywhere. That's what you want, to come into River State, and when they come, they realize that there's a standard that you have to keep, and they're here to help lift that standard. That's what President Trump is trying to do in the United States. He wants the best. And if you're somebody that's going to bring his country down, he doesn't want you. So let's build a river state that the people of the world would admire and that is attractive.